Welcome to the Managing Human Resources in Situation of Teleworking webinar. You will be shown a pre-recorded session in order for us to maintain a quality level of satisfaction. I will be live once the presentation is over in order to answer some of your questions. You can use the chat or speak in your microphone to ask questions. Your questions and answers will be deleted once this session is over. Enjoy the webinar. My name is Richard Bett, and I am the President and CEO of the BEVA Learning Institute, which is part of BEVA Global Management, Inc. I have a master's degree in project management, as well as other project management certifications. I have more than 30 years of experience working in various fields such as nonprofit organizations, high technology, defense, communications, security, and did some work for some municipalities. I have been teaching various courses for more than 15 years to professionals attending various educational institutions or working for various government. Let's look at the learning objectives we will cover during this webinar. So we'll take a look at the impact of COVID-19 epidemic on organization and work. We'll take a brief look at transition from home to office, new role and responsibility, work and resource management, RACI matrix, milestones, lessons learned register, project management tools, and conclusion. As you're aware, due to COVID-19, the government has given us a directive to stay home and save lives, meaning we need to work from home until it is safe for us to return to our normal working environment. This has a big impact on the organization since at this time, we can say it is being decentralized. Many of us are not currently working physically together. According to the reading, there are impacts of making the transition from working from the office to home. As you know, humans are creatures who love to socialize. If we look at social isolation, we are used to working as a team in the same location, and suddenly, due to the pandemic, we find ourselves working at home on the kitchen table, bedroom, or other places in the house, and possibly sharing the same space with other family members. We have no more physical social contacts with our colleagues at work. So this does have some effect on our mental health. Before the pandemic, we had a sense of belonging, we were productive, and we had a routine to follow. Now, due to the separation of the group, we may act different, we may think different due to the lack of human interaction at work and our routine. Having this in mind, we will need to adjust our new way of doing things in regards to work. We will need to work alone at home, but communicate with our colleagues digitally. Due to COVID-19, there's a high probability that certain roles and responsibilities will change temporarily and even indefinitely. One of the big factors that will influence this decision is the continuity of operations and the realization of important projects or tasks. It is likely that projects or tasks recognized as important before the pandemic will be reprioritized in order of importance by management. This decision may have an impact on your current role and responsibility. As expected, these decisions will be conveyed digitally. It is at this point that the manager or supervisor must ensure that the team works together to achieve the objectives and complete the work virtually. In order for this to happen, management needs to look at simple tools to manage work and resources in the teleworking situation. The previous approach before COVID-19 was that management was close to their employees and employees were close to their peers. It kind of created a social bond between the people at work. In other words, people were co-located, they worked together in one place, as well as socialized. Management could easily access their employees to ask them for some ideas or for their feedback, and was easy as well to set up some meetings. As for decisions, well, decisions could be made quickly due to the proximity and availability of the resources. Everyone was at the same location. Communication was done in a more direct way. As an example, you could have had a spontaneous face-to-face meeting at someone's desk, or invite a few people and go to an office where it was empty, or even a meeting room. Many people would gather in one room to plan the work and then ensure the work is being done. Now let's take a look how things change in the work environment since the COVID-19 pandemic. If we look at the new approach due to the pandemic, we can see that most of the teams are now working virtually. Virtual meaning that people are communicating using technology. Today, we are more dependent on technology than ever. Communication technology has made virtual teams workable. But the challenge of managing virtual teams is the feeling of isolation, the gaps in knowledge sharing, and the difficulties of monitoring productivity. People are using various methods of communication, which is causing trouble. Many people are using different technology and you get confused and downtime is apparent. So management need or should identify which method of communications should be used and when in order to ensure people communicate efficiently. So one important question management or supervisor may be asking is the following. How can I manage work and resources in a teleworking situation? Well, let's look at a few simple tools that answers this question. The first tool being considered is the RACI matrix. This matrix of responsibilities uses positions. So as for an example here, we take an example from a municipality, which they have supervisors, employees, and volunteers. And with the RACI matrix, RACI does mean something. So if you look at the words below, you see the R for responsible. Who realizes the work? You have the A for accountable. So who's accountable to get all of this work being completed? There's also consulted. So who should I consult? It could be a subject matter expert. It could be someone from a different department. And last but not least, informed. Some people would like to get informed about what's going on with the project, since it may have an impact on their day-to-day operations. This matrix refers to positions such as supervisor, employees, and volunteers. So as a manager or administrator, you can see in the matrix in the first column, the task description as well as other columns identifying the positions to perform these tasks. So each position has a responsibility. So as you can see, I've selected a project called Neighborhood Cleanup. And with the Neighborhood Cleanup, you do have a project team which consists of a supervisor, employees, and volunteers. So when we look at the first task description was project planning, we could see that the supervisor is accountable for the work to be done. And as we keep going horizontally, next we see the employees, which they are responsible to get the work completed. And as we move to the last column for volunteers, we could see the letter I, which meaning that the volunteers would like to be informed about what's going on in regards to project planning. So we could also take a look at the next task description, which launch a meeting. So when you are ready to launch a meeting, the employees would be responsible in ensuring that everything is put together in order to launch that meeting. But yet the supervisor accountable to make sure that that meeting goes forward and that the volunteers are informed of what's going to be this project all about. And as we go down to the task description, we could see clean first section, meaning the first section of the neighborhood. Then if we keep going down, we can see clean second section of the neighborhood. Then the last task you see is the lessons learned. So as for the lessons learned, if we go through the columns and you go to the last column for volunteers, you would see there a C. C meaning for consulted. So in this case, is that you would like to have the feedback of the volunteers. So you're probably asking, well, what are we consulting? What are we asking them? Well, we're basically asking them what worked well during the project and what needs to be improved. And this information would definitely be vital for the upcoming neighborhood cleanup, maybe in the following year. So as you can see, this table is very useful for identifying positions or roles and their responsibility. So it's recommended that the participants agree on the responsibilities before starting the work. So this will avoid any misunderstandings and duplication of effort, thus increasing efficiency and productivity. So this exercise can easily be concluded by holding virtual meetings, even though the resources work from home. So once you have a consensus, the next useful tool to consider is a milestone table. As a manager or administrator, you can certainly use this table to communicate the work that needs to be completed and the timelines. So let me give you a definition of a milestone. So a milestone describes an important point or event in the project. As you can see here, you have a milestone table or a list that identifies all the milestones in the project, or it could be in operations. It specifies for each milestones the schedule or planned completion date, the actual completion date, the variance or gap between both, with a comment column. The ultimate goal of this table is for management to communicate with the team members the project progress and performance. The team needs to ensure that the actual completion date of a milestone equals or finishes before the scheduled completion date. As a manager or administrator, you can share this table with your team to inform them of upcoming milestones that must be respected. We will cover next the lessons learned. So if you do take a look at this table under the milestones, you will see the last one, which is lessons learned. So here we can see a lessons learned register. As you move forward, you can write some lessons learned in the table, meaning moving forward into the project. This is also a great tool to share with your team virtually. Each member will have a chance to insert their lessons learned as they are encountered. So in this lessons learned register, one can enter the domain they want to make reference to. As for an example, we have project management as the domain. There's also other topics here, which we have requirements, schedule, cost, quality, and change request. And all of these, you could have something written about what went well. So this would be definitely under the lessons learned column. So what went well or what needed to be improved. Followed by the next column, which is comment. So if there's any specific comment that you want to write, that would be great information for people that will be looking at this now or in the future, and the source. The source meaning who brought up this lessons learned. So let's go through it together to have a better understanding. So in reference to project management, the requirements were not clear, thus creating confusion and not delivering what the client was expecting. The source came from Department X. So one can do the same for the other topics in the table. You can also change the domains or topics to reflect your work environment. If you're looking for something more complex to manage your work and or resources virtually, you can always refer to project management tools or applications. There are numerous project management tools on the market that you can consider. So in this instance, I have indicated 3 of them to be considered. The first one is the ITM platform. And this is a platform that one could go in and log in. It's all on the cloud. It's available only in English, but it's quite simple to use. The next one you would have Basecamp, which is available in both official language, as well as MS Project. MS Project is probably the one that has the most functionalities. It would probably require quite a bit of training because it's very detailed. But for those who wants to go in and start managing operations or tasks and operations or projects, this could probably be a good tool, especially if you want to manage more than one project. It also has that capability. So they all have common functionalities, but some has extra. So I suggest you research which application would best suit your needs and your work environment. And you could always subscribe to these applications as well for a 30-day trial. And if you are happy with one of them, then obviously you could go and buy a license. You have to also be aware that some of them may be a license per seat, or it could be per concurrent user. So just ensure that you are clear on what type of licenses you are purchasing. So the following is an example of a project management tool that I'm presenting. And here you could see that I am presenting the ITM platform. So this slide here, it shows you a project, and it references the Human Resources Management Information Systems, which is HRMIS project plan. So it's an example of a project that information system is being planned and implemented. Looking at the interface, on the left side, you could see the line number that you can make reference to. You also have the task ID, where as well you could make a reference to when you are in a meeting. You have the task name, and on the right-hand side, you see a Gantt chart where you could see the timelines. So in this case, you could see that on the right-hand side that the project here will be starting on the second quarter of 2018 and will finish the fourth quarter of 2018. So this one here is quite visual. So it's very easy to put a picture together and present it to upper management and show the progress as you move forward. Another view of the ITM platform is more of a human resources management. So you can see the tasks to be completed, the team members and their responsibilities. It is basically a RACI chart, but in a different format. So as you're aware, the more people on the team increases the number of communication channels. So it's very important to select the right communication tools in order to work together virtually and efficiently. When we do look at tools, there are many communication tools available on the market today, as you're aware. So it would be up to management to decide which communication tools to use within the team or even within the organization. So in this case here, we are using Zoom. And there are also other communication tools such as Skype, GoToMeeting, and Ring Central Meeting, and others as well. But there's also some tools that you could use for training. If you are interested in training some of your people, you could also use the Illuminate. There's WebEx, and there's other applications as well that you could use. But it would be really interested to know that there are tools out there that you could use. It's basically at your end to decide which tool would be best to fit your organization in terms of communication. So to conclude, let's go through the topics we have covered. So we looked at the effect on people that have transitioned from their office to home, the possibility of changing roles and responsibilities due to management reprioritizing the tasks or projects, the approach of working together as a team in the same location, almost side by side before COVID-19, the new approach of working virtually at home, but yet remain connected using technology, the racing matrix, which identifies responsibilities based on positions, milestones tables that identify important point in time to complete, a lessons learned register where one can identify things that went well and other things that needs to be improved. We look quickly at some project management tool that could help management and the team to plan and track project progress. And at last, we covered some of the communication tools that are available on the market that can be used virtually and help us communicate better. So this concludes our webinar, and thank you for attending.